We're going to discuss access control and views. I'm going to give you a very easy idea of how this thing works. Okay, this is a kind of a substitute of my other audio. There is no video for this so far. Audio access control or chapter 8 explain more is easily. Position and responsibility explain more easily. So explain more easily is something I remember. As everything I don't remember what exactly was it, but explain more easily. It's a substitute for that audio. You don't need to listen to that audio after this. See, we all go to hotmail.com, right? See, when a person goes to hotmail.com, let's say a new user is created and you are the Hotmail developer. Okay. So, just as a person creates a new user account, as a developer, you want to give access to his account, right? You will give him two things. One is what kind of various folders are there: inbox, sent items, outbox, drafts, so and so forth. Is it right? Yeah. So you will give him the access to this inbox folder, then you will give him the access to
sent messages,
sent items, then you will give him the access to drafts, then you will give him the access to outbox. No, compose is a page, separate page. I just want to give the folders, right? Right? So we'll give him the access to inbox, sent items, drafts, right, as Hotmail developer. Now, what will he see in his inbox? Okay, one more thing. This Hotmail developer, let's say second person makes an account. Will he give him a new inbox, new sent items? Yes, it will be. But the code behind the scenes will be the same inbox, or will be the same in sent items, or will be the same drafts or outbox, or different inbox, different sent items. I think code behind the scenes will be same inbox. What he will see in that inbox will be different, right? The data will be different for the second account and the first account, but inbox, sent items, drafts, outbox will be same, right? So there are two things here. One is data or the emails in this case. Is it right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So just as a one person comes in, I as a developer need to give him the access to two things. One is inbox, sent items, drafts, outbox, and one what the data that he sees in that, right? And of course, you when the first user logs in, makes his account, just a new user account is created. Let's say they don't make it account, we make the account for that. You call them, say we need a new account. So I create his user ID. So that's his user ID. Then I first thing I make is his user ID. Then I attach the inbox to him, attach the sent items to him, attach the drafts to him, attach the outbox to him. Then I make sure that he sees his data. How I make sure? I simply attach his data to him. In his emails, in my database, I store his user ID. So somewhere here, I just make a very simple thing. In my database here, from where I will be picking the data, which is where my data is lying, for every line, for every email, I am storing his user ID, right? So I go here, I first assign this to him, then the engine of the Hotmail goes here, picks all those email IDs, wherever his user ID is, picks those and puts it in that, composes this data, then this guy will start seeing this in the inbox. Is it right? This is how the things work. The engine will work like this. Now after I give him the access to like this, the engine will go here, pick all those emails, wherever I as a developer have put his user ID, then pick all those emails, put it in the inbox for him. These are the two things I need to make sure. He needs to get the access to his data. For getting the access to his data, for every data record, I have to store his user ID. If I don't do that, engine will get confused. He will not know whether this email is his or somebody else's. Yeah. This is very important.
So unique ID.
So I need to assign data to him, and I need to assign inbox, sent items, etc. And that unique ID should be unique, business wise, right? So inbox, sent items, drafts, outbox, these four things have to be assigned to him. If I don't assign outbox to him, then he will not see it. He will also not see the data. Can a person see the data without seeing the outbox? No, he cannot. He needs to get the access to the outbox also. Let's make the thing more clear. Let's say one day you log on. If you don't see inbox folder at all, can you see your mails? No. So developer has to give you two accesses. We all, when you get when we all go into a Hotmail, we all see as one thing: my inbox and my emails. Actually, let's try to separate these two things, because behind the scenes the code works differently. Data, as you know, is different for everybody, but inbox code is same. Is it right? Any good developer will develop it like this only. He will not develop different inboxes for everybody. Right, Muruks?
Yeah.
It makes sense. We make one inbox. Just as a person gets created, I assign the inbox to him, and assign the data to him. So assigning the data will basically make sure that the same inbox code can be used. Is it right? Right? Now, if somebody comes, let's say we're talking about a bigger company, then we say, okay, manager comes and says, I don't want him to see the sent items. He should not be able to see what mail he sent. He can't say his inbox. So your job as a developer will be, you will create his user ID, you will give him the access, you will assign this thing to him, you will not assign this thing to him, you will assign drafts to him, you will ask him, sir, shall I assign him drafts and outbox also? He'll say, okay, assign him drafts also, don't assign him outbox also. So you will not give him the access to that. You will simply associate somewhere these two codes, somewhere you will associate these to the user ID, and then you will, for every data record, you will mention which email is his user, which email is his, then engine will automatically go in the database, pick all the emails, put it in the inbox and show the whole inbox to him. In this case, inbox, he will see the inbox. Then he will say, okay, I want to see sent items. System will go in the engine, engine will go in the database, pick all the emails, bring it, try to put it, it won't be able to put because sent items is not there. So all the emails sent by him, he will not be able to see. Net result is that. Does it mean that the emails are not there which are sent by him? Emails are there in the database. The only thing is it doesn't have that view. That folder is missing.
Access is denied.
But access doesn't a big word. That's what I'm saying. Access now is two things to you. One is you need to have the view. Second thing is you need to have the data. If by some reason database goes down, can a person see his inbox now? He can see the inbox, but there will be nothing in it. Right? We are covering every scenario now. Let's say next scenario is in the database there is no email assigned to him. Somebody goes and deletes his user. Somebody goes and deletes that email ID and user ID linkage by mistake. Will he see that email now? Although he is seeing the inbox, he will not see that email in that inbox. Is it right, Muruks?
Yeah.
Alright, we are very clear about, we can clearly see the access privileges as two things now. One is the access to the view or the folder where he sees it. Second thing is what he sees it. Right?
What he sees.
What he sees. What data does he see?
email.
Data is, if I break the data linkages like this email and user ID linkage, this table in where email and user ID is stored, if I delete that email, can anybody see his data? What will happen is they will see everybody's data in inbox. Depending on how my engine is designed, they will see either everybody's or my engine will error out. Say, I don't know, I didn't find this table. Or engine will give them access to all the emails. Both the cases, we understand that our access rules will not work. We understand that. Our access privileges will not work. So our access privileges are now composed of two accesses, not one. One is giving the access to the view, then second is giving the access to the data. Right? This is pretty much same as DVD player example. If you need to have the DVD player, that is you need to have a screen and a DVD player. If you have this DVD player and you don't have TV, can you see it? No. You need to have the viewer where you see it, and you need to have the cassette. Cassette is your data. That's where the movie is residing. If you don't have the movie, even if you have the screen, you cannot see the movie. If you have the movie, you do not have the screen, you cannot see the movie again. You need both the things, content as well as the.
In all three things.
And
basically.
in this case, there are two enablers of the same thing. So we need both these things. We need the data as well as the second thing. Right? The enabler. One is the data and the enabler. Right? In this case, there is only one enabler. मान लीजिए आपकी कंपनी थोड़ी कॉम्प्लेक्स है, उसमें इनबॉक्स भी तरह तरह के हैं. ठीक है, किसी जगह पे प्रोडक्ट दिखता है, किसी जगह पे ईमेल दिखती हैं, किसी जगह पे अकाउंट दिखते हैं. इनबॉक्स तरह तरह के हैं. इनबॉक्स एक स्पेशल इनबॉक्स है जिसमें सीओ की ईमेल्स दिखती हैं. तो ये 4 इनबॉक्स हो गए. राइट? लेट्स से आई वांट यू टू सी द ऑल द ईमेल्स फ्रॉम इनबॉक्स. Azim ji, I want to give him the access to that inbox where only CO mails come. I don't want to give him the access to that. So I'm talking about a few inboxes. Say this email program that we're talking about is more elaborate. It says we have separate inboxes for friends, for contacts, for accounts, for products. Separate inboxes. We can easily visualize the situation. There is nothing very big in it. Emails that I get from Mr. CEO, there is a special inbox for that. Emails that I get from my friends, there is a special inbox for that, right? It simply means that we just need to make sure that all these views are tied to the right group of people, right? Whatever. Once I make this, again, let's say I say Harvest should be able to see only those emails which are sent by various accounts. Then I need to give him the access to account email inbox, and I need to make sure that all the email and user IDs are also mentioned there, whether this email is from an account or a contact or a product. Right? All this mapping has to be maintained. So data also has to be appropriate. So the data can be filtered, put it in the appropriate inbox. Is it right? So this database table has to be a little bit more elaborate now. Just for lack of proper English word. So we need to maintain. Yeah, I like that you asked me, because after some time I would have had session. What did I say? Okay, so ask me if you don't understand my language. Contradict me. Stop me right there. There's no point in moving ahead. I'm not having any fun in speaking unnecessarily. If you guys are learning, there's fun, right? So just stop me. You have late, so just forget for some time. But you guys, please stop me if you guys don't understand. Okay. So if Moons is understanding, that's not my goal. Okay, my goal is to make you understand too. Yes, YouTube. If you don't understand, stop me. Okay. Just if he's pointing head, nodding head, it doesn't mean that you guys understood too. Okay, so I don't have the right to go ahead if he says he understood. So please stop me. Okay, I request you to stop me if you don't understand. I'm assuming that you guys are understanding. Okay. So we are very clear. Every time you guys are making an application, there are two accesses you need to develop. Okay. To develop proper access privileges, you need to develop two things. One is the right views. Second is you have to make sure the data tables have these place columns or something where the mapping can be maintained, or maintain these mappings. Data also has to be maintained, not only column. Every data record has to have which user ID does it belong to. Otherwise, that particular email will not be shown to anybody, right? If there is no user ID, right? So these are the two things that come into picture. There is no application in the world which is using something else. All right. So this first one is called as responsibility mechanism. Giving the access to views is called as responsibility mechanism. Okay. I take the liberty to say this responsibility has nothing to do with your English word responsibility or the business word responsibility. Please forget that word in this class. The meaning of responsibility, I just told you, to provide access to views to various people, you need to use the responsibility. Right? Why there is, okay. Now to provide this access to various people, let's say I have 2000 views, 2000 product email inbox, account email inbox, animal, I don't know what all, contact email inbox, activity email inbox, activity, whatever. There are hundreds of reasons because of which I have 2000 views. And every time a person comes, it becomes a lot of work for me. I create a new user ID, right? And then I assign him all the, let's say he needs to have access to 200 views. Typically they will be having access to about 50-60 views. One by one I start, okay, assign this view to him and enter data. Basically somewhere I'm entering data, assigning those views to him. Drag and drop, right? Maybe drag and drop, maybe entering new record, associating this user ID with these new views. Guys, entering 50 records for a user ID. Can this be reduced? Can we reduce this way of entering data? Just that portion. User ID we have to assign to various views. Right? Can we make it faster, simpler? Right? So let's observe the world. In the world, if there are 10 reps, most probably they will be doing the similar kind of work. Most probably they will be having the similar access to the views. Right? So why don't we do like this? Why don't we create a group of views and name it as VG1, view group 1. Every time new rep joins, we ask simple question. He is like these 10 reps or like these 10 reps. So you see what is the group that these guys belong to and just assign that group to him. The group of views, we club the groups together and make one group called as VG1 like this. So let's say new user ID joins. My goal is to give him the access to this V1, V2, V3, V4 up to V100. Right, sir? That's my original goal that I stated. So what I will do is, let's say just look at the data. This guy will be called as responsibility administrator, okay, or view administrator. Just like a new guy joins, he starts in the morning. How many times he has to just keep entering the same data over and over again? I don't think it's a good idea. It will take 1.5 hours just to enter these views into his record. And when you're rolling out the new application, it will be even more cumbersome, right? You will be rolling it out to 800 users on the same day, right? So first day you have to start. By the end of the week, you will be able to finish. Is it right? Just entering this data, which person having access to which views. Can't we come up with a simpler method? Let me suggest you a simpler method. Just common sense wise simpler method. Whether Siebel does it or doesn't do it, that's really immaterial at this point. It is just making common sense. There should be some way of grouping it. What do you say? I just group it like this and then call this group as something, right? View group 1 and I will assign this to first user ID. So I have to do the work for the first one. I agree, right? Same amount of work for the first one. Entering 50 groups, 50 views to one user view group. But for the next step, I just have to do the same step now. Just assign next user ID comes. Let's say this is the next user ID. You know, I just assign it to him too. Just group. So he gets access to all those 100 groups, 100 views, right? Makes more sense, right? Administering this whole simple function is very easy. If somebody comes, 800 reps are there. I will create their user ID, assign him the same thing.
So all the reps will be assigned to the same group.
We have to now manage. Now somebody says fourth user ID. Sorry, fifth guy comes in now. He will be having the access to V1, V2, no V3 access, V4, V5, no V6 access. Then I will create a new group. But at least my work has been reduced from for these 4 reps, my work has reduced, right? For these reps, my work has reduced, right? For a fourth guy or a fifth guy, I have to make a new group now. I'm pretty sure in a company, not everybody has different accesses, but rather multiple people will be having the similar accesses. I have seen the sales rep would usually be accessing the similar views, right? In fact, all the people in the world use the same Hotmail access. Everybody has access to inbox, sent items, outbox, drafts, right? Azim asked very simple question. If we want to give different access to different group of views, like this, right? So yeah, we'll create a different view group. V1, V2, V3 will not be there. V4, V5, V9 will not be there. Whatever. But at least my work will be reduced. And mostly I will be giving the similar groups to various people. I have seen this. In fact, all the company people in the world have the access to same group of views as far as Hotmail is concerned. Right? So what we realize is, yes, requirement for the specific views is different. It is same for multiple people usually. Right? Is it right? So making this a view group will be a very good idea. In fact, the way Hotmail does is, just as you, because their views are always same, just as you create a user ID, same set of views automatically get assigned. They don't even ask anybody. They don't even ask you, they don't even ask your manager or anybody. They just same set of views automatically get assigned, right? Because it is going to be same all the time. In your case, you will be asking people as a BA, which views should I give them the access to, so and so forth. Now, we all see very important thing. We need to now maintain these view groups very, very well. We should know which view group has which views, so that if somebody comes and says, manager comes, I want this guy not to access this one, then you have to create a new view group, and you should know which view group has this view, so that you don't assign that view group to that person, right? Right? So for that new view group, so you have to either create a new view group, you have to do something. You have to create another view group without that view. Then you have to assign them. So now you have 2 view groups having similar views in it, only one view is different. So maintaining of these view groups is very important now. Is it right? That's what we're talking in the morning, right? That maintaining these view groups, now you're getting a perspective to this. There is a lot of work still left to be done. Issues come. If you keep creating these new view groups without any issue, without any keeping knowledge, keeping track of what you created, what all views are there in that, you will definitely lose sight one day, right? Somebody will say, can I give him this view group? This guy, new Michael guy has joined and he's going to be working as this sales rep. You will see how his view group will be different. His view group, you will say, which view group should I give him? You have forgotten what are the subtle points of the view group, what all views are present there, what are not. Then you have to do this manual exercise of going over each and every view, right? View group. So it is a lot of work still left, but things have become easy to begin with. And if you are a methodical person, if you are an organized person, you will maintain your view groups and what are the views are present in those view groups very, very well. Typically, every view group will be having hundreds of views, 50, 60 views, 3 or 4 views, okay? 30 or 40 views. You need to manage it very well. So we understand the concept of view group now. View group in civil world is called as responsibility.
It's called as what?
Responsibility.
It's called as responsibility.
It is nothing but a set of views which have to be assigned together to a person. And I told you the management issues with that. If you assign, if it's easy, if everybody has access to same views, you make one responsibility, assign it to everybody, he will see the same set of views. It is only the access to the set of views mechanism. Go back to the Hotmail days, Hotmail discussion. Inbox sent items have to be assigned to this guy. Inbox sent items have to be assigned to this guy. It is just a mechanism to do that. Simply because it's easy to assign. I could have easily assigned each inbox and etc. sent items one by one. I could have done that easily without any issues. That's how Mr. Bill Gates is doing right now. But in civil, because there are hundreds of views in one, for one person, the similar views are required for the other person also, we just make a set of views. It is nothing but a set of views to be assigned together to one person. Making sense? This is where, like, see, views are created in civil tools for sure, but this is where the views are present. All the views in the civil database are present. Let's see the number. It's a big number, guys. It's a very, very big number. Now, managing the access of all these views, if somebody has to be given 1200 views,
Oh my
right?
God, yeah, that's a
Right?
thing.
There are people who have the access to 100, 150 views. Actually, all the administrator have, right? So they have the access to 2433. So these views are now grouped in various responsibilities. I'll show you now where. Okay. See, these are the various responsibilities. Let's see how many responsibilities are present. And by the way, guys, these are like Vanilla's responsibilities and vanilla views. We'll be making more views, right? That's what the customization means, right? We'll be making more views, right? So there are like so many responsibilities. See, every responsibility has these views in it. In this responsibility, we have approximately 122 views. So if I were to assign these 122 views one by one to everybody, it would be difficult. So I have just grouped them, made those part of this product development manager responsibility. And when some new guy comes, I will ask simple question. What does he do? He's a product development manager. I'll put his name here, simply enter his name here. Mr. Andy Biggs. Okay, product development manager. Alright, done. Finish. Nothing else.
It will have
I will first create his user.
That is the best way to
Yeah, I will obviously first create his user ID. I can show you now also. Creating the user ID also.
No, I did them.
Create a new record. Anji. I don't remember the name. Azim Akbar, right? So whatever, I create his record. Oh, login name is required for me. Okay, I create his record, then go back, to this screen, this thing, come here, and
Right.
is there?
Oh, it's the third one.
All right, Mr. Azim, please use the application.
Your identity
I have all the
employee.
views.
You have all that. Otherwise, I would have talking about half an hour to enter all these views, right?
Yeah, that's what my point was, that you have created all the views,
Mm-hmm.
and then when a new
Group.
person views and groups, and then you group them,
Mm-hmm.
okay, according to the requirement of the user.
Mm-hmm.
And once, let's say, a new user comes in, and you know that this user is particularly for that field, or he works for that field, so you assign all the views to that particular guy.
Yeah.
We have to.
Very good question from Adnan. He says, if I don't want Mr. Andy Biggs was already there, so he can see all the views, 122. But Mr. Azim, let's say he doesn't want him to see e-portal my contacts view for find, the one which is here. Then whether he should remove it from here or not. That's Adnan's question. Very good question. Hafiz, try to answer please. So the answer is, he's saying is, let's hide it. Let's delete that view from here. The answer is, if you delete it,
No, if you delete, it means that you are deleting from
just
responsibility.
because Biggs and Azim both cannot see, right? So that
Yeah,
solution will not
but
work.
you have to-
Yeah, discussion about responsibility is kind of complete. The two solutions to this issue is, you keep this responsibility intact, create a new responsibility. I will call it Product Development Manager Azim. Make 99 views part of that responsibility. I will call it PDM Azim, and assign PDM Azim to Mr. Azim, and assign this PDM to Andy Biggs. So this Azim has to be removed from here in that case, right? Right? So I will make another PDM 2 for PDM Azim, to which I will assign those 19 views and assign that responsibility to Mr. Azim.
Okay.
That's what I told them.
Biggs, that is first solution. Second solution to the whole problem is, you remove this view from here.
Okay.
We cannot delete it, that's fine, just don't worry about it. Delete it somehow from here. So make this as PDM 1, and PDM 1 has these 99 views now. Create another PDM 2, and then give that PDM 2 to Mr. Biggs only. Don't give it to Azim. PDM 1 should be assigned to Mr. Azim and Mr. Biggs.
No, to me only.
No, PDM,
okay.
PDM 1 should be assigned to
Okay,
both of them, because they both need to access the 99
Because it
views.
doesn't have the e-portal.
The different view should be made part of a new responsibility, and then that responsibility should be assigned to Mr. Biggs only. This is the second solution. Then you're evaluating. We just saw, now doing any of these solutions is a part of your personal organizational skills. How you organize your life. I mean, I personally might be having different philosophy of organization. You might be having different. Right? Usually I've seen that project managers also don't regulate. They don't know they don't know this issue of organizing responsibilities in CISO. So they don't know how to regulate. They don't even ask the administrator, how you're doing this thing, don't register this thing. They don't know all this. So eventually it is a job of the administrator. He knows what he's doing. Okay? Alright. So this is this concludes our discussion of responsibility. Still position is left. Shall we go to position?
I think.
So what happens is, now this data also has to be assigned to every user ID. So let's say there is account data, and there is an inbox account, and at that place only account should be shown. We all understand that with account we have to maintain user ID as well, right? Simple. Siebel also does the same way. But Siebel has this bad habit of having this intermediate things to help people. Like responsibility is an intermediate thing only now. It's nothing. It's conceptually it is nothing. It's just an intermediate way just to assign it properly, easily, fast, quickly, right? Account data, there are rows of account data. You have to assign it to user ID. Now, let's say there is one problem I see in this approach. Only one simple problem. If let's say I assign these 100 accounts which belong to Mr. Hafiz, so I am in my data, it will be lying as account 1, account 2, account 3, Hafiz, right? This is, let's say, your database, and in the database A1, A2, A3 is lying. They are all assigned to Hafiz. So he will have the access to the right view where he can see the account inbox or account data, and this data will be shown to him only. There are other accounts also lying in the database, A4 to Monu, and A5 to Sonu. So they will not show to Mr. Hafiz, right? They will be not shown to Mr. Hafiz. Only the ones which are assigned to Hafiz will be shown. We have already talked about this. So, but there is one problem in this concept. Mr. Hafiz, let's say, leaves the company. So A1, A2, A3 now have to be manually assigned to somebody. Let's say Mr. Jitu comes in his place. Okay. So what somebody has to do is go to database, or wherever he goes, somewhere he will go. He will basically, in effect, change this thing to Jitu, right? And the work will be done. Now Jitu will see instead of Hafiz. Typically, Mr. Hafiz will go. Typically, Mr. Hafiz will be working on some records, and Jitu will come and he will be assigned to these records very easily, right? Hotmail does not do this. Hotmail does not do any of these things. If Mr. Hafiz leaves his email ID, can I see his emails? No. Hotmail does not worry about this problem, but we have to worry because business data is important. This is not just like emails. But Now I try to understand the gravity of the problem. How many employees leave in a company typically in a year? Do you know? 10 to 20%. Typically, how much data will they be assigned to? Hundreds of accounts, thousands of accounts sometimes, hundreds of thousands of contacts. Their account will be 100, there will be 1,000 accounts, 10 contacts per account. You will be having so many people in that account, right? Many opportunities, many opportunities, so many activities, right? All these will become orphan now. Or somebody has to assign manually all this data to Mr. Hafiz. And it's not only Mr. Hafiz, it's about Mr. Hafiz, Mr. Priya, Mr. everybody. All those 20% people who leave every day. You have to have 4 full-time people just to do this data work. Just to keep correcting the data every time somebody leaves, every time somebody comes, right?
Why do you have to correct the data when somebody leaves?
Because that data will become orphan. Do you want your accounts not to be attended by somebody? What is the reason behind having account managers then? You have account managers, right? If the data, you leave, then account manager, that accounts will become orphan. They are not assigned to anybody. So obviously, business-wise, you will assign those accounts to somebody else now. So CBIL-wise, the data should not be assigned. Of course, it has to be assigned too. It has to be aligned with the business strategy. Business strategy says if one guy leaves, then all the accounts that are assigned to him should be assigned to the other guy. Simple, right? Right. So very simple. Same thing I want to do in CBIL now. Right? So data also. So data administrator will sit in the morning and how many students, how many new employees, how many employees, obviously will make errors also. Right? Leave errors apart, just try to see his work. Every day, we're talking about 3 data administrator supporting 1,000 reps because there are 200 reps leaving every year. Right? That is the churn in the industry, typically. So there's an easier way to do this. Just that easier reason is the reason there's a thing called as, okay, we'll just first call it by some of our generic name. We will maintain Mr. half miss position. Okay? Position. We'll maintain position. Okay? And we'll maintain a position called as P1 and user ID Hafiz. So we'll say, okay, position is P1 and user ID is Hafiz, and we'll assign A1 to P1. Okay, now everything is assigned to Mr. Hafiz via a thing called as position. He's assigned to this position and all the records are assigned to these positions, right? So when Mr. Hafiz leaves, you don't have to do anything. Just ask him. This new guy Jitu, in whose place he has come? Hafiz. Just go, come to this place, delete Hafiz, put Jitu here. Whatever Hafiz is assigned to, Mr. Jitu will automatically get assigned to all those records. No hassles, no nothing. By mistake, can you now do a thing like you might have missed some record which Hafiz might be assigned to, and Jitu is not assigned by mistake? Could it happen in the first approach by doing it manually? Yes, it could happen. You could leave certain records being assigned to Hafiz only. But in this approach, can this thing happen? No, you just do it at one place, it gets automatically assigned. Isn't this the way the things work too? You know, one position has a seat on the company, has telephone attached to it, that networking cable is attached to it, so many things are attached to it, right? Person, his seat is there, table is there, chair is there. When he leaves, you know, right? We don't bring the new table and chair and everything for him, right? Okay? We just say, okay, this was the seat of Mr. Hafiz, sit here. This was the position where he was, sit here. Everything that Mr. Hafiz had the access to, you have the same access now. So that's how the position has come in. The position is pretty much remains there. If Hafiz leaves the company, so then but his position will remain there. So we'll assign this thing to new position.
Yeah, I mean like a position.
All right. So now we see that position is just a way to assign records to people, so that only reason is so that if person leaves, the reassignment of records to somebody else is very easy. Is it right? Right? By the way, CBIL is very seducing. CBIL is very deceives a lot. All the records, in fact the positions, their names are also like this, Hafiz 50. So whenever you see an account being assigned to some people, you should know they're actually assigned to position. For example, if you go here, you know, if you go here and you see these are assigned to CBIL administrator, last name, first name, and you assign it to Mr. Douglas Ho, Actually, you are assigning it to their positions. See, these positions are hidden here. The name is hidden here. You're not assigning it to Douglas Howe. So Siebel, but so the people when let's say I'm a worker, I want to assign this account to this guy. Just I want to assign. Then I should be not seeing the position name like RPM Mr. Rap 1. I should get a feeling that I'm assigning it to Mr. Azim. So Siebel allows you to give similar names to positions. So that when I'm assigning it to you, I can see your name. So when you go and somebody else comes in your position, then his name will start showing there. So the purpose of reassigning is also done, as well as Gaurav, while assigning the records to you, will not get confused. I always have to remember all the positions of all the colleagues. His position is call center 1, his position is call center 2. Too much work for me. I want to have a simple assignment way. I want to assign it to Priya, I want to assign it to Hafiz, I want to assign it to Jitu, I want to assign it to ABC. I don't want to be assigned to call center 2. I have to remember them who is in call center 6 or 7. So in records, in this whenever you're assigning things to people, you will see that the names will be shown. But again, guys, remember that those names are actually positions. Okay, these names are actually positions. And what is a position? It's hidden here, just here, right?
Yes, sir.
So very important thing, we must maintain one position per employee, one employee per position. In Civil, you are allowed to create multiple employees per position. The whole purpose gets defeated if you do that. So Civil does allow it, but as a BA, I never suggest it. So that's how you maintain your data. Position and employee, one-to-one mapping. No employees, one employee can have multiple positions also.
No, but
So when he will log in as one position, he will see different data. When he logs in as second position, he will see different data. That is also not a good idea. He's like two people. He has two personalities now. Every time he logs in as a one personality, he'll see different data. That is also not desirable. So as a BA, I never assign anybody two positions, or I never assign two employees to the same position. I maintain one-to-one mapping between P and E. P colon E, 1 colon 1.
no, actually, in the real world,
He says that in the real world, sales rep will be a position and 100 people
there
will be working as sales rep.
Yeah.
Okay guys, if you see, now we are talking about giving them the access privilege to a sales rep. Right? There are two elements to when we say common thing between them. The common thing between them is the views that they see. The different thing between them is the data that they will see. Right?
Okay.
So position in this case should be different, because position determines the data in SQL. Whatever position is in the business world, I don't care. I don't know what is position mean in the English.
Okay.
Right? Position in the English boils down to our two things. One is the access to the same views, the access to the different data. So access to the same views will mean same responsibility. Access to different views will mean different positions. So I will maintain it as sales rep 1, sales rep 2, sales rep 3, up to sales rep 100, and the names will be assigned to those sales rep 1. Mr. Sulfi's name will be assigned to sales rep 1, Priya will be assigned to sales rep 2, others will be assigned to sales rep 3. That's how I will be doing. The position in the real world is one concept, but in Civil it boils down to our two concepts, responsibility and position. The thing, quite interestingly, which is different is responsibility. Different is position, not responsibility. In the real world, 100 people will be having the same position, right? In Civil, that is the same thing will boil down to having same responsibility and different positions, right? So position determines access to data, responsibility determines access to view. All right, very good question from Muruk. See, I'll create a sample responsibility in Civil, so you position in Civil. Just create a new position here. Oh yeah, this is a position. It is assigned to this last name. Okay, it is basically, so you have to create an employee record as well as a position record. Position record is just a placeholder where the employee record gets fit, right? For example, if I delete this guy, I should not delete actually. I can put Mr. Azim here, right? And now Mr. Azim will have all the access to all this data that person, that unfortunate person got deleted. I don't know who that was. I forgot the name. So whatever he had the access to. So position administration is quite easy now, right? Assigning the data is quite easy now, right? Okay. We'll come to our next concept. So maintaining the position as well as user ID should be sufficient. I should just maintain for every account data, for every contact data, which position it is assigned to, right? And then for every position record, for that particular position record, I should be basically making sure that this is assigned to this user ID. So when the user ID logs in, you know, for every user ID, I have to maintain his position, his responsibility. Responsibility to determine the access to views, and position to determine the access to data, right? And this is the database that we have to maintain too. Otherwise, those data will become orphan. We have to maintain for every record which position it is assigned to. Do we need to maintain which which employee it is assigned to? No. Data is assigned to position, not employees. We all know that, right? This much functionality will enable us to make, just as a person joins, we can give him views as well as the data. Responsibility in a nutshell, as I explained, is only to make sure that giving the access to views is easy, simple, quicker, that's it, quicker. And position is, concept of position is existing only because giving the access to the same data to different person when the first person leaves is easy, quicker, that's it. There is no other reason why position responsibility exists. Siebel guy, Mr. Siebel could do the same way as Mr. Bill Gates is doing in Hotmail. He could just assign the views as well as the data to the user ID, right? He could have done the same way. The only reason is he didn't have to manage these two things: quick access to the views and quick access to the position, to the records if somebody leaves, right? He didn't have to manage these two things, Mr. Bill Gates. So that's why he chose no position, no responsibility. Direct views access, direct data access. But Mr. Siebel, he had to come up with a product so that he could address this business problem, right? So that people can save times of entering various views or assigning various views to people via responsibility and assigning the data to people via position, so that down the line, administration of the position is easy when somebody leaves, right? Is it right? Right? So when a new person comes in, we assign him a new position and we give him the access to his views. We ask what will be his work. They say he'll be working as a product development manager. So I give him the same responsibility as a product development manager so that he has access to same views. Then I ask him, okay, which guy is he replacing? He'll say he's replacing Mr. Adnan. So I'll find out his position, Mr. Adnan's position, remove Mr. Adnan from there. Association of that position with that user ID will be removed, and I will make this new guy mapping to, then I will assign this new guy to this position of Mr. Adnan, right? Mr. Adnan's employee record will be there, right? That all will be there. The position will be reassigned to this new guy, right? So this much mapping, this much data maintenance, the record, the user ID, and okay, record and the user ID should be enough. Record and position should be enough. So I'm changing this to, right? This should be enough, right? But there is a third, and somewhere these two tables I definitely see in the database now being maintained. For every record, I have to maintain the position to which it is assigned. For every position, I have to maintain the employee user ID to which it is assigned, right? So that when somebody, right, we know these tables, right? Okay, there is a third thing which can help us a little bit more in providing another functionality. Let's say sometimes we ask for this functionality. Sales rep 1, sales rep 2, sales rep 3. They are reporting to manager 1, right? Is it a usual thing, right, Muruks? So manager 1 these rep 1, rep 2, rep 3 is reporting to manager 1. I don't care who is reporting to whom. Frankly, whatever we need to do so far, we don't need to care. We don't need to maintain what is the organization hierarchy. For sending and receiving mails, do we need to maintain organization hierarchy? No, right? So we don't need to maintain all this hierarchy. But there is one functionality that I'm going to explain now. As you guys have already seen, I have told you responsibility is only to group the things together and give. That is the only reason responsibility is existing in the world, in Siebel world. Position is only existing in the world because once somebody leaves, another person might come in, right? That is the only reason position is coming. So crisp, very crisp, you should know, right? Concept of position and concept of responsibility, they are required because I explained you set of views has to be assigned and data has to be assigned. These are the 6 things we talked. Now I'm coming to the next view. So far we don't need to maintain who's manager and all those things, but I'm going to talk about one functionality, and this is all that functionality is mentioned here. It is a usual thing that in the business world, manager will say, can I see the records entered by rep 1, rep 2 and rep 3? Obviously rep 1 and rep 2 cannot see rep 3's record. Rep 2 cannot see rep 1 and rep 3's record. Rep 3 cannot see rep 1 and rep 2 records. But it is a usual requirement that manager 1 should be able to see rep 1, rep 2 and rep 3's data. It's a pretty usual requirement. So Mr. Siebel has done a pretty good job of providing this facility in his product, Siebel. Okay, what he does is, he says, all right, so what you do is, they maintain a special view, right? They make a special view. They call it my team's view. Okay, and this is it can be made a part of any responsibility that you want. Okay, right? They make a special view, and to make that special view to work, it's a very simple engine. It finds out. It's the engine behind this, or the rule behind this is very simple. Finds out, let's say you log in. So user ID is yours only. It will find out who all is reporting to you. Then after that, it simply finds out the data assigned to you as well as to your team, finds all these 4 people's data and puts it in the manager one's, this my team's view. Simple. This rule is already written. Don't worry about that rule and the code behind it. Just worry about this view. The way this view works is, the only thing you have to say is, who reports to whom?
Who is what?
Who reports to whom? If manager 2, if rep 1, rep 2 report to manager 2, you have to mention it somewhere. It is in your hand. The only thing you can actually do is, you're allowed to do is mention this reporting hierarchy, so that this functionality can work. Otherwise this functionality cannot work, right? Right? If I don't tell the engine that rep 1 and rep 2 works for manager 1, rep 1, rep 2, rep 3 works for manager 1, then will this engine work? Will this view work? This view will be showing data just without any rules. So how it works, that's fine. The important inputs to that rule is, my input to that rule is, the data administrator's input to that rule is, who reports to whom. So we have to maintain this hierarchy in SQL, right? So we'll maintain this hierarchy in SQL. Okay. Otherwise, we don't need to maintain this hierarchy. This is only for one reason. So the functionality that we are trying to achieve is the only functionality because of which this hierarchy is required. This is the only functionality. Very crisp thinking. Just keep this in mind. If down the line I ask you, remember I asked you today. So the only functionality which we are trying to achieve now is, if manager 1 wants to see his subordinates records, how to get it. Siebel has written all the code and made this view, my team's view, my team's accounts, my team's opportunities. But how it works is that, just forget that. The only thing input from your side, or from the BA side, or from the developer side, or from the data administrator side is, who reports to whom. That will be different for every company, right? Or there will be Richard reporting to Mark everywhere. That's not possible, right? So he has to say, this is the person, and these are the 3 people who are reporting to him, right? This can be done using user ID also. This can be done using position also, pretty much, right? But I will not use user ID. Because if manager 1 leaves, then his records will become orphaned. So I will maintain this hierarchy also in the form of positions, right? Right? So I'll maintain this hierarchy also in the form of position. Sales rep 1, sales rep 2, sales rep 3 position. These report to position manager 1. So if manager 1 is assigned to Mr. Hafiz today, and tomorrow Hafiz leaves, and Zia comes in his place. So Mr. Zia will be having the access to all the records of rep 1, rep 2, rep 3 automatically too. We need to maintain this hierarchy of positions, not of employees. Just to enable which functionality? That reporting, that data visibility of the subordinates to managers can be achieved, right? That's the only reason we have it. There's no other reasons, guys. Please get all the things out of your mind. We just talked about 5 or 6 simple things, right? So this is the reason why this managers thing is present. So how to write it in SQL? This is very funky too. How do we write it in SQL? See guys, now it comes to that same riddle. I'm giving you this graph. Tell me how to put it on the horizontal line. You see, remember those riddles in the analytical books? You know, this is a time graph. This is the number of people in the class. Now you say it in a different way. You put the time here, put the number of people in the class. You just put the graph in a different manner, right? So we'll put this graph in a Excel manner, in a tabular form, the same graph in the tabular form. Okay? All right, sir? So let's analyze this diagram. Mr. Moody's, isn't it the same as this diagram, this simple diagram? Isn't the same as this diagram right here? According to me, this is my firm belief that this diagram, this way of writing is same as this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Right? This is Siebel way of writing hierarchies. If you see in Siebel, for every position, the parent position is mentioned. This is mentioned for everyone. Right? Now, in the same thing, there will be M1 position also. Brian, his parent will be blank because he does not report to anything according to this diagram. In real world, there will be many positions or whatever position, but there will be some positions which are not reporting to anybody, as it is true in the real world also. You will be putting this organization hierarchy here also. Let's say somebody comes to you and says, Rep 1 reports to M1. Rep 1 is reporting to M1. M1 has hired him. Sorry, M2 has hired him. And M2, manager 2 has hired F1. Manager 2 can fire F1. He is his boss. He can do anything he wants. But I want the data to be shown to M1. So guys, which one will you put in your Siebel as the boss? M1. Finish. We are not trying to simulate the world here. We are just trying to do our data visibility. Whosoever needs to get the data visibility will attain that using this mechanism. So Siebel hierarchy has nothing to do with the reporting hierarchy sometimes. Not sometimes, multiple times. They could be different. Right? Kent might say, or some director might say, I don't want to see anybody's data. We don't need to put his position. He says, I don't enter any data. You need to maybe do anything. We are just talking about when somebody needs the data access to all of those people down on ground. This is the only reason we need this thing. Okay? Right? Right? Okay? So this is the only reason why the parent position concept exists. Organization concept exists. What functionality is achieved by this concept? By maintaining the hierarchy. My team's views work only that way. Their code is written already. The only thing that needs to be written is who reports to whom, because they are different in every company. You can say who in your company reports to who, and then you can do that. One more thing, you don't maintain this thing in user IDs because we maintain this hierarchy among positions. Why? Because if M1 leaves, then we need to assign those Rep 1, Rep 2, Rep 3's records to M2, the new guy. So that concept of position, you remember that position is only 2, so that if somebody leaves, then the next guy comes. That to maintain that is the only reason, right? Why position is required. See, let's say the requirement comes to you. This guy should be able to get access to V1, V2, V3, and he should be able to get the access to V1, V2, V3, but he should not be able to edit the records. A1 should have the access to V1, V2, V3. A2, sorry, that 2 should have the access to A1, A2, A3, but he should not be able to do that. Alright guys, in Siebel, access is assigned at the view level. You cannot assign the access at application level, or at the screen level, or at the applet level, or at the feed level. Let's say somebody comes, he wants to see the view 1 or the my accounts view. He wants to see the my accounts view, but he should not see that particular field. Guys, you will have to write 2 separate views in this case, because you cannot give the access to individual fields in Siebel. The access is only at the view and the data level, and in this case only view comes into the picture, because data, they will be seeing their respective data, so position does not come into the picture. Only thing that comes into the picture is view, and I have to do what? I have to create 2 views, one with 11 records that 11 fields that he should see, one with 12 fields that he should see. I should assign that view 1 to responsibility 1, and responsibility I should assign to rep 1. View 2 should be as I first have to make it, right? Developer will do that. Don't worry about it. Developer will do that. But once he makes it, after that you have to go in the responsibility view administration screen, assign view 2 to responsibility 2, and assign responsibility 2 to rep 2, right here. Right. Any other frequently asked question?
Can you create one here? Can you create second? Can you create responsibility here, or you can? No, account rep.
That's what you had shown earlier, no? Azim
Right.
and Andy.
So I have
Just one view.
created one responsibility, assigned this view to that responsibility, and Mr. Andy Biggs cannot see that view via this responsibility.
Cannot see, or you can.
He can.
You can see. Okay.
He can. Next time when he logs in, he will see that. These are small subtle details, practical details. When he logs in, next time he has to log off and log in. I don't want to confuse you with all this. Conceptually, we all are trying to proceed ahead, right?
Okay.
Let's say,
You said okay.
no, just me. Let's say somebody says the requirement comes that a person should not be able to see this site here. I cannot do that, guys. I have to make two separate views now. Simple. Somebody says I cannot. The person should. This Mr. Rep should not be able to enter synonyms. The Rep 2 should be able to synonyms. You will say, okay, I have to make two separate views. Very simple, very clear. No issues. That's the only way it can work. Because in Siebel, access is provided, or the edit privileges are provided at the view level. At the view level, you can code it differently. You cannot do anything else. So when you make separate views, you assign those separately. Right? Okay, guys. This completes our discussion of position and responsibility. If there is something else left, I'll bring it up to you guys' attention tomorrow.
Okay.